What's up guys, it's Zach from Digital Pinnacle, and in this video I will be going through 7 games that use procedural generation. Whilst No Man's Sky is the most recent example of this, procedural generation has actually been used by many other games over the decades. It's a method of creating data algorithmically, and games use it in all kinds of interesting ways. If done correctly, it can help to make a game feel less predictable and potentially more exciting. In no particular order, here are 7 uses of procedural generation in video games. Battling your way through hordes of flesh-eating zombies is much more scary when you don't know where they're going to come from and you don't know where you're going. Left 4 Dead 2 uses an artificial intelligence system that procedurally generates the spawning position of everything ranging from the infected humans that plague the earth to the weapons you'll use to annihilate them with. Left 4 Dead 2 also procedurally generates level layouts, lighting and weather conditions. What was once a dark corridor could become a sealed off doorway in your next playthrough. Put simply, the procedural generation in this game can either give you a helping hand or a boot to the face. The Borderlands series came crashing onto the scene with its outrageous comedy, its cel-shaded graphics and of course its 87 bazillion guns. The Borderlands series used procedural generation to randomly create weapons, meaning there is a ridiculous amount of variation. Almost every weapon is created randomly from a massive amount of barrels, stocks, scopes and so on. Things such as elemental damage, weapon stats and a weapon's rarity are also completely random. The use of procedural generation in the Borderlands series entices lovers of loot and makes opening a weapon chest that bit more exciting. It's impossible to make this video without mentioning Rogue, one of the earliest examples of a game which uses procedural generation. Rogue is a dungeon crawler which was released in 1980. The aim of the game is to descend to the bottom floor of a dungeon, retrieve the Amulet of Yendor, aka Rodney spelled backwards, and then ascend to the top floor again to escape the dungeon. Rogue uses an algorithm to generate a new random level every single time the player goes to the next floor. Rogue inspired a whole myriad of similar games which are known as roguelikes, and it even inspired some bigger games such as Diablo. So whilst it might look obsolete, Rogue was a revolutionary game. Jumping ahead to the modern day, we have No Man's Sky, the most recent example of a game that uses procedural generation in arguably its most ambitious form. No Man's Sky creates a whole universe of procedurally generated planets to explore. It would take you 5 billion years to visit every one of No Man's Sky's 18 quintillion planets. Just about everything in No Man's Sky is procedurally generated. The wildlife, the plants, the geology, the spaceships, and even the soundtrack. Regardless of whether or not this game lived up to the hype, the sheer scope and technical achievement of this game is truly incredible. As I mentioned earlier, Rogue inspired a whole heap of dungeon crawling games, and in 1996, the first Diablo game emerged from the fiery depths of hell. Procedural generation is one of the defining features of this RPG series by Blizzard. The Diablo games use an algorithm-based process to generate random dungeons on the move. This has a direct impact on things such as monster spawning, loot, and even quest generation. The procedural generation in the Diablo games is part of what makes it so addictive, and endlessly battling your way through dungeons with your friends an absolute blast. Spore uses procedural generation in a slightly different way to some of the games I've mentioned so far. Spore is a god simulator that allows you to develop a species, raising it from a microscopic organism and steadily evolving it into a sentient being. Most of this game takes place in a procedurally generated universe, which you're able to embark upon once your species is advanced enough. What makes Spore truly shine is how it uses procedural generation with your creatures. Based on the physical appearance of the species you created, Spore will procedurally animate the creature's movement. On top of this, once you have established a species, the DNA template will then be shared with other players worldwide, meaning that your species has a chance to be procedurally generated into their game world. Whilst at a first glance Minecraft can seem like a simple game with its cubic art style and cute animals, it actually hides an extremely complex algorithm that allows it to procedurally generate worlds of an almost infinite scale. The algorithm creates random worlds, but it's guided by rules to maintain logic. In its essence, it uses biomes, which are essentially climates with different conditions. Different biomes will create different landscapes, meaning that a hot dry biome could create a barren desert and a cold moist biome could create snow-capped mountains. Long story short, the procedural generation in Minecraft is revolutionary and it allows it to create some stunning landscapes. So those were 7 games that use procedural generation. There are so many other games that use procedural generation in interesting ways, such as Elite Dangerous or Rust. More and more developers are opting to use procedural generation in their games because it's a fantastic way to create large amounts of data at a reduced file size. What's your favourite game that uses procedural generation? Let us know in the comments section. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video and stick around for more gaming and film related videos. Thanks very much guys.